Tucker took a shot. I retaliated, and I think he didn't expect how badly it would go for him. Now, shortly after that video, shortly after that show that I did about Tucker, this exchange, Tucker reached out to me. He called me on the phone. And I won't say exactly what happened there. I don't want to betray his confidence, but he called me on the phone, and we had an amicable conversation. We sort of leveled with each other. And I would say it was cordial, friendly, and civil.
Pre-record back of another video. Got some more Nick Fuentes clips for you guys today. First clip I'm going to be showing you guys, is, I don't know if you guys have seen, it came out yesterday. Nick Fuentes finally was on Tucker Carlson, the long-awaited meetup, podcast interview that we've been waiting for, and it should have been a long time ago. But yeah, Nick's finally was on Tucker, and it was a good conversation. I watched the whole thing. Nick broke his backstory down. How he came up. How America First was how he started his show and all that. It's a good interview. I recommend it. And this is Nick's thoughts on how it went and how he talked to Tucker. Basically, just going on about how the interview went and that he had dinner with him and all that. So. I'll ask if you guys like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on the video. It helps the channel, it helps me out, push more America First content out there. We gotta rise up the groypers, man. We gotta keep going and pushing and just learning the right things, not this fake stuff we see on the left and all that, So, we'll get into it and enjoy some Nick Fuentes.
Tucker took a shot. I retaliated, and I think he didn't expect how badly it would go for him. Now, shortly after that video, shortly after that show that I did about Tucker, this exchange, Tucker reached out to me. He called me on the phone. And I won't say exactly what happened there. I don't want to betray his confidence, but he called me on the phone, and we had an amicable conversation. We sort of leveled with each other. And I would say it was cordial, friendly, and civil. And so we talked things out a little bit on the phone. And then his team reached out about a month ago, and they said they wanted to bring me on the show. And I went into it really without any real expectation. I had no idea what I was in for. They invited me out at the end of September, beginning of October, to come and do the show. And of course, I said yes. And I'm interested in having the conversation because I challenged him in my show about him. I said, well, why don't you just talk to me yourself? If I'm an unknown quantity, if you don't know what I am or what I believe or whether I'm sincere and why I'm launching these attacks, ask me. You're a journalist. Ask me the question. I'd be happy to answer. And I said, I'm not an animal. I don't think I'm a brute. I'm a civil and polite person. I said, and we can make it civil. I said, but give me a fair hearing. Let me tell you in my own words who I am, where I came from, what I'm about. And I think to his credit, and I think everybody on our side, whatever you think of Tucker, and I know a lot of my fans love Tucker, and some of them are very suspicious of Tucker. And I have similarly ambivalent feelings, or I did, let's say. I love a lot of what he's saying and doing, but I'm also wondering, what's this guy's problem with me? And so I'm sure he was curious, and I was curious too. I wanted to meet him and get the measure of the man, and I wanted to hear from him himself. And I'm a man. I wanted to stand up to the questions. So, of course, I leaped at the opportunity. And I said, absolutely, I'd love to do it. And as soon as I could, I flew out, and I had dinner with him on Sunday night. And like I said, I walked in really not knowing what to expect. I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm always honest, sometimes to my detriment. I did believe Tucker was in the CIA. And so part of me was thinking, because they booked my travel, I was thinking, did they put a bomb on the plane to kill me? Because they booked my plane ticket. I was thinking, kind of a huge risk. Because look, if I'm sincerely saying that he's an operative, well, so I swear I really went in not knowing what to expect at all. I was thinking, is this plane going to blow up when it takes off? I was thinking, when the driver comes and picks me up, is he going to take me out in the woods and blow my head off? I was also thinking, what if it's a complete ambush? What if he punches me in the face for talking about his family? What if it's a totally hostile line of questioning? What if they pass a bunch of deep fake photos across the table and say, we got you? I was thinking, I sincerely had no idea what to expect. And I know that sounds like a joke, but I'm a paranoid person. And honestly, that was in the back of my mind. But I'm brave. I'm a heroic and courageous person. So I said, well, I'll tell people where I'm going. And I said, if anything happens to me, you tell them what happened here. And that's true. But so I got on the plane, I flew out, and the plane did not explode. Nobody killed me. Obviously, I'm still here. And I went up to his place, and we had dinner on Sunday night. And it was very intimate. It was me, him, his producer, and that was it. At the table where we did the interview, and it was extremely friendly. It was extremely nice. But I wouldn't say, as other people are characterizing it, I wouldn't say that he didn't challenge me. He probed me. By probed, I mean he asked me a lot of intense questions. He really spent hours on Sunday night getting to know me. And I spent a lot of time getting to know him. And he asked me about everything. He asked me about what I believe on many different subjects, about things he's heard about me. And I think both of us were maybe measuring the other and sizing the other one up and trying to figure each other out. But it was honest, it was direct, it was straightforward, it was challenging, it was fair. But I think we had a really good, interesting conversation Sunday night.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I can get where Nick's coming from. He's like, oh, they could have killed me. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of theories about Tucker Carlson. People saying that his father was involved with the CIA. Oh, I know he was involved in the CIA, but then they're saying Tucker was involved with it inside of them. So, I'm still up on like how Nick said at the beginning that people have a certain perspective on Tucker. I kind of have like that. Maybe he is an informant. I've always liked Tucker Carlson. I've always liked his interviews. Of course, on the Trump campaign, that he was pushing Trump. I've always liked of Tucker. But then a couple things like how Nick was talking about kind of made me think and just realize. This dude could be working for the government for all we know. He could be, like Nick said, trying to get CIA information. But yeah, that's good though. This collab needed to happen. All right, next clip I got for you guys is Nick talking about how conservative politics work. And this is what he said. It's about pro-Israel billionaires deciding who should speak and who will be canceled if they don't follow the dogma, which is true, And like this guy said right here, when money controls speech, truth becomes hate, and it's true, man. Money controls everything. But I don't want to talk too much. I'm gonna let Nick get into it, and yeah, you guys enjoy the clip.
Here's the real lesson of my story. It tells you how conservative politics works. Turning Point USA is the largest campus conservative organization in the country. They receive $140 million per year. That's a lot of money. $140 million per year. And they have thousands of chapters. And they invest in speaking events and conventions and leadership summits, and they hold events and they table and all these things. They host debates. Why? Where are they getting that money from? Who's putting up the money and why? Billionaires. Billionaires are putting up the money. Foster Friess, Bernard Marcus from Home Depot, Facebook, Israel, Shillman. They are putting up the money for Turning Point USA. That's who has $140 million to spend on campus activism. Why? Why did they spend all this money? Because properly understood, Turning Point USA, college Republicans, that is the first entry into a pipeline which creates future Fox News correspondents, which creates future Republican staffers, future Republican politicians. If you want to groom people to be loyal to the party in politics, where do you look? You find the smartest of the youth. And where are the smartest, most capable youth, relatively speaking? They're in college. Admission or participation in college means you could fill out a college application, you get a certain score on a test. It's rudimentary, but it's a filter. They go to the colleges and they find the 18-year-olds that are in college, and this is where they get them. This is where they start to indoctrinate them. And they start to tell them, you are vaguely conservative. Maybe you're Christian. Maybe you have a cultural or temperamental disposition towards conservatism. Well, you're with us. You're on our team. We claim you. And this is what we believe. We believe in cutting taxes for corporations. We believe in war in the Middle East. We always support Israel. We believe in limited government and deregulating Wall Street. We believe in fossil fuels and energy. So you might be like a 17-year-old that says, I don't really like the way these liberals sound. Then they claim you in college. They table and they solicit you. And they say, hey, you're with us, and this is what we believe. And I was one of those precocious, look that up if you don't know what that means. I was one of those precocious young students at a selective school, Boston University, that was picked up, groomed into this operation. I was 18, a freshman, and they said, here's a kid that's well-spoken. Here's a kid that's very conservative. He's fighting the left. And they scouted me. Cassie Dillon and the Flying Monkeys at Daily Wire, Aaron Bandler, Elliot Hamilton, they wrote articles about me. They scouted me. And they brought me into their group. And they said, we want to give you a career. They started to work on me. Cassie Dillon took me to get my eyebrows done. She said, we need to get you media trained. She sent my profile to Ben Shapiro and said, you need to mentor him. He's great, but he's too Trumpy. He supports Trump too much. When I started to criticize Israel, they said, whoa, you can't believe that. You're not allowed to say that or believe that. And when it was clear that even though I was America First, conservative, Republican guy, I wasn't willing to follow the dogma to the letter.
It's facts, you know. I mean, that's the unfortunate part about, of course, turning point. Like I said, rest in peace, Charlie. But yeah, they're taking it over, and they're gonna do it in different ways, you know. And yeah, that's the thing too. Even when Charlie was alive, you know, I mean, who's funding all this stuff? Those are the people who have the power. It's the people that are putting their money, the billions of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever, how much amount they put into the company. That's who has the control, and that's how they're able to do this, X, Y, and Z, you know. And then, like how you was saying right now about getting groomed, Nick, he was getting groomed at the beginning, like you said at the beginning with the Daily Wire. You know, they wanted Nick to be the Daily Wire. They wanted him to be up there with Shapiro, and like you said, Cassie Dillon. I mean, all these people, you know, Matt Walsh. But yeah, it didn't work out because, like he said, he criticized Israel. It was, like you said, to Trump, like Trump a lot, and yeah, of course they didn't like that, and yeah, we now know what happened to Nick. If you guys haven't been watching the last 5 years, you know, they tried to suppress him, but now it's like he said, he's having a generational run now, and it's gonna keep on skyrocketing, you know. All right, last clip I got for you guys is Nick, or talking again about Tucker Carlson, you know, the whole interview and all that. And he says Tucker's interview shows a lot of character and integrity. He didn't set up an ambush, but gave Nick a good faith hearing, even when they disagreed. And that's all it is. And that's the one thing I didn't like about Charlie Kirk. Again, like I said, I like Charlie, but he didn't want to debate. I don't know if you guys have seen the text messages that just got released. I forgot his name, but it's an Indian guy, and it was again Charlie talking about saying, oh, we can't let Nick. Why'd you give him a platform? You know, you shouldn't have done that. That's the wrong thing. We've been fighting this dude for 6 years. You know, it's like at the end of the day, I respect Tucker because he had Nick on. A lot of people aren't willing to go up against Nick, you know, but you got to give Tucker the credit. You know, he did go up and he debated. It was a civil. They may have not agreed on everything, you know, but they had a conversation. You know, that's the most important thing here. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let you guys enjoy this clip. And yeah.
Monday, I showed up a half hour before we recorded, and we walked through everything we would talk about. And he told me, this is what I'm going to ask you. There were no surprises, no ambush. And I really want to say that because I want to give him a lot of credit for a variety of reasons. But maybe first and foremost, it was fair. And if you watch my show, if you know anything about me, I do very well, actually, in a hostile environment. I've done it before. I've been the subject of an ambush. I've been the subject of a hostile line of questioning. People have been tough. And sometimes I do interviews and people are extremely complimentary and friendly. All I ever ask of anyone is that they hear me out in good faith. That's it. You can ask a tough question, a personal question. You can ask a hostile question. You can disagree strongly. As long as it's in good faith, as long as it's sincere, as long as it's fair, and I could even deal with not very fair. I don't like it, but I could deal with that too. That's all I've ever asked. And to his credit, that's what Tucker did. And I thought that was extremely courageous of him for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, he knows that even just by sitting with me, it doesn't matter what he says. He's going to get destroyed for this. And by that, I don't mean they're going to take him out. He's obviously very resilient and the people love him. But as you've seen over the past 24 hours, people are going to attack him ruthlessly and dishonestly and unfairly. So I think that shows a lot of integrity and a lot of courage that he even sat down and did the show, especially considering we went at it really hard over the summer. So that shows, I think, a lot of character. And in the second place, forget even about the reaction from other people or how his reputation might suffer. I also think it shows a lot of integrity as a public intellectual, influencer. I don't know if he'd like either of those words, but I think it shows a lot of integrity that he could have ambushed me. He could have been unfair, and maybe that would have went better for him in terms of public perception, or maybe he could have one-upped me in some way. But he was willing to face a disagreement and not know the answers I was going to give and not know how it would go. And I think that takes some courage also. It takes courage of his convictions.
No, it does, and that's the thing. I've already seen that people are already putting backlash on him, on Tucker for having Nick on there. But at the end of the day, it's BS because we all deserve to have the right to speak and the right to talk, like I said. Just because someone has, and there's people I don't agree with, I don't like, and I don't agree with, prime example, Ben Shapiro. Ever since I started following Nick, it really put me onto the whole Israel thing, and Ben Shapiro, like, prime example, he's in love with Israel, I don't like Ben Shapiro, but I would, if I was in Tucker's shoes, I would have a conversation with him, or if I had a show, I would still interview the top dudes, even if they're on the opposing side or whatever, I would still give them a chance to speak and have a civil conversation, and what Tucker did and the fact that he's getting backlash for it, which is, it's inevitable at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who you have on. There's going to be people that don't like it or whatever. But it's just, to me, it's unnecessary, because Nick deserves that, to talk and have conversations. That's what he does. He talks about politics, talks about political stuff, history. He knows his stuff. I think that's the thing they get twisted. They think Nick doesn't know his stuff. In reality, he does. Yeah, he's funny. He's like us. He's a brash, funny dude, raw dude, and cut. But he knows his stuff. He studied it. And you just can't knock that, man. And but yeah, like I said, shout out to Tucker Carlson, bro. The interview already has like 3.2 million views in one day. That's probably the fastest that got to 1 million. So the people want to see it, But yeah. If you guys like this video, again, like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on the video. It really helps me out. Like I said, trying to get these Nick Fuentes clips out for you guys and just keep pushing the message. America first. We need to love our country. We need to keep going hard for ourselves. That's the only way we're gonna get better. And all of us. We're the future. I'm the future. I'm only 18. I'm sure there's a lot of young people watching this. Even if you're older, it doesn't matter. We are Americans, and we need to unite and do what's best for our country, not what the left wants, and we just need to do our best and, like I said, to be successful. But Nick's live Monday through Friday on Rumble. So yeah, I'm gonna link it down below for you guys to check it out. And yeah, everyone have a good one. This is Pure Record out.